All right, so the first thing is the red hair. I hate the red hair. I
Really?
don't like the way it looks. I don't like anything about her hair.
Oh,
Also, her face is too long. I don't like how far apart her eyes are. I'm not a big fan of her nose. When she speaks, her nostrils flare all the time, and it
okay.
seems like the camera's always pointing up at her, and I hate looking up her nostrils. Also, her mouth is humongous. It's like a Steven Tyler Mick Jagger mouth, and I just don't like the way it looks when she opens it. And I just hate listening to her speak. And so when she's on screen, I just want to puke. So
Well,
let's say I am not a fan.
are you Julie Roberts? You're not a fan of Julie Roberts?
No, I'm talking about Susan Sarandon, but
Oh,
I hate Julia Roberts too.
oh, okay. And welcome back to NostalgiaCast. I'm Darren Lumberg, and today we'll be covering My Best Friend's Wedding from 1997, directed by P.J. Hogan, starring Julia Roberts, Dermot Mulroney, Cameron Diaz, and Rupert Everett. I wanted to welcome a returning guest, very special guest and good friend. It's Natasha Alvar. How are you doing?
Hi, hello. I'm good. I'm good.
Good. It's been a
Yeah.
while.
I didn't check how long it's been since Parent Trap. Has it been like a few years?
It's been a few years. Yeah, I definitely want to talk about that. But yeah, I'm so glad that I'm finally able to talk to you again. You are the editor in chief for the fiction department. You're an approved critic for Rotten Tomatoes in the Cherry Picks. You're an all around awesome writer, the biggest Tom Hiddleston stan, and a good luck charm for us at Nostalgia Cast. That Parent Trap episode, insane numbers. We have as of right now, it's 2.3 million views on that, which is our most popular movie. And we've talked about that. Like I don't think any of us know why that hit so big.
Yeah.
Maybe the twinning effects. I mean, what do you remember about that conversation, and why do you think like it would have hit so hard? What's the appeal of Lindsay Lohan and The Parent Trap?
Um, I don't know. I think it may be nostalgia, I
Okay.
guess. And I think it's a very rewatchable film. Like, I think I've rewatched it like many times. I think even before I rewatched it for the podcast. So maybe it's that, and people I think kind of like the whole element of trapping your parents to fall in love again, I guess.
Yeah.
I really don't know like what is the pull. Maybe it's Dennis Quaid still in his hot era before he became like the substance,
Yeah.
Dennis Quaid.
Eating
Yeah,
shrimp.
but I think it's Lindsay Lohan. I mean, it's one of her, it was one of her star making kind of turn movies, right?
Yeah.
That's when she became like really big from that. I don't know, people like to watch, I think, films that appeal to them when they were like younger. Like until now, I watched like Lindsay Lohan did this film called something about a teenage drama queen.
Right. Right.
It's really good. Yeah, and I think I rewatch it a lot as well. So I think it's just that, I guess. I don't know. Or
Okay.
and maybe we got lucky on the algorithm or something.
Something
Yeah.
crazy numbers, right? My biggest
Yeah.
takeaway is like watching the twinning effects in that movie are still so good that a movie like The Flash, which tried to do the same thing, and it's just so odd looking that you kind of watch it and go, why don't you just go back to the old ways? Like it was so perfect in The Parent Trap, and they did such a good job. So I don't know. That's my main. It's funny watching older movies and seeing how well they've done things versus how they keep trying to do things now and just not standing the test of time
Yeah.
or comparing.
Yeah.
But anyway, I want to hear more
Yeah.
about you. Like I said, it's been a while, and since you're running the fiction department, if you could tell us or tell me what the fiction department is and how long you've been doing that and why you decided to take that on and why it's important to you, just let us know a little bit about that.
Okay, so basically, I think when we last spoke or when we last did a podcast, I was the film editor at Cultured Vouchers,
Yeah.
and what happened was is that when that whole AI thing started, and when Google started using like a AI kind of as part of their search engine, what happened was is that the site got hit really badly,
Mm-hmm.
and like we weren't like getting a lot of traffic anymore. So like even though I think my reviews were like doing okay, it wasn't like I think the sections that were not gaming
Mm.
related were not really performing very well for the website.
Yeah.
And so the editor-in-chief had started to kind of pivot over to YouTube. But on YouTube it was just solely like about games. So he had like there was like the site used to do like books and wrestling and TV and film, but on the YouTube it was just gaming, and I think they found like a niche audience based around that. So it happened like really quickly. So I think he told us, like, guys, this is not going to be sustainable for me. Like I can't keep paying you guys because the site's not doing very well. So he was already planning to, I think, move to retiring the site
Mm.
and move like towards doing like YouTube full time, but only like doing gaming. So I think it was kind of, I mean, it was shock
Yeah.
because the turnaround was really, really quick. So, and it was like, I think at that point, I think maybe I was depressed or something. I mean, not legit depression, but when you feel like a sense of loss,
Yeah.
like it's because it happened like really quickly. So we had like a month to like wrap up everything.
Wow.
And so I had to like give up the email and everything. So um it it became like really difficult because I realized that all my contacts were through that email as well. So the moment that email disappeared, like I couldn't like contact anyone. Like even like my screener accounts were attached to the email. So like I couldn't even, like once the email is gone, I can't access like any any screeners anymore and everything.
Wow.
So we had about 1 month to like settle everything, and then the email was like shut down. So I think I did reach out to some of the press contacts that I had to, so I had to set up like a new email, and then like try to figure out how to like port everything over. But like some of the things that like didn't make it, and I had to just sacrifice that. Um, yeah, and then after that, I even had to like contact Rotten Tomatoes and everything because my email was attached to that as well. So I
Yeah.
had to like contact them and say, I got to change my email, and then there was like the whole process. So I was a bit worried that um I
Like all
I
the work
wouldn't
you
get
did.
everything settled.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And that I wouldn't get all of this settled before, because if everything's attached to the email, then I won't be able to access it once the email is defunct. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, so I was a little bit in like a funk, and then my husband was like, why don't you just start your own website, right? Because I don't know if you know this, but for Rotten Tomatoes, if you don't write after a while, they can take away your
Mm.
approved critic status. Um, so you gotta contribute like regularly. Otherwise, if you don't do it for a while, they'll be like, okay, you're not like contributing regularly. Then they would just kind of like take it away. So so I was worried about that, and then I was speaking to Rachel about it, and then Rachel was like, don't worry. So she's like, if it ever comes to something bad, then I can write for like her website, right? So she said that, and then I got approved for Hallmarkies. So I added Hallmarkies as part of my Rotten Tomatoes thing while I was trying to figure out what to do. Yeah, so it was basically me and my husband. So I came up with the name. He helped me build the website, and we set everything up, and then it went live, I think in 2024. Yeah, like, but towards the end of the year it went live. But then there was another problem because Rotten Tomatoes was like, oh, your site is new, we can't let you add it to the Rotten Critic thing, whatever. And then I was like, okay. So I was just like kind of like, what do you mean? Because I've seen like so many critics have their own blogs as one of the publications, right, that they write for and stuff like that. So I was trying to explain to them that, the sites that I used to write for are no longer like producing content. So it's not just Culture Vultures, it was also like the other sites. Like the site was still there, but they had stopped. Like I just realized this is a very long story. But anyway,
No. Love it.
I'm so sorry to listeners. I'll try to wrap up. Yeah, so I had no like outlet to like write, right? So with Rachel, it was like podcasting, and then she had her website, but it was mainly like Rachel's reviews, right? It was mainly like she reviewed her stuff. So she said that, if it really came down to it, I could write for the whole Marquis site. But yeah, I think I had gotten paid for so long that I was just like, I can't do this for free anymore.
Right.
Like unless I was doing it for myself. Yeah, so I had to like churn out, I think, about 3 months worth of content, and then I emailed Rotten Tomatoes again and was like, will you let me add the site now? And then they reviewed the content, and then they said yeah. So then they finally added it, and then when they added it, then it was like a relief, I guess. So yeah, so then I just been like running the site, and then I get people to write for us from time to time. But yeah, just really small site, but we got monetized.
Yeah.
So that was like woo, a big thing. Yeah, but I mean I can't quit my day job or anything. It's like really like small, but it's slowly, building a kind of presence.
Okay.
So I'm kind of happy. Um yeah, that's the very. I'm so sorry. It's a very very long story. Yes, but it's a sad and happy tale, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, don't apologize for talking so much because I love hearing you talk and I love reading what you write. And yeah, I
yeah.
knew like I said, it's been a while since we did the Parent Trap, but we've been in contact and DMing each other and obviously commenting on each other's things on Twitter. So I knew about that stuff with Culture Vultures, and I'm sorry to hear that because you need a place. Your voice needs to be heard somewhere, and I keep telling you that. I didn't know about all those
Yeah.
complications, and so I apologize for all that. But looking at the fiction department, it's a very I love it. Like again, I love having your voice there. I love all your contributors. What is your focus at the fiction department? What is your main like? If there's one thing you're most proud of with the fiction department, what would that be?
What do you mean? Like,
Like, do you try? I mean,
uh,
it's called the fiction department. Is it just all movies? Is it TV? Is it books? Like, just so people can know. Like,
yeah. Okay, I get what you mean. Okay, it basically is an exploration of all things fictional.
yeah,
So there's film, of course, but there's also like TV and books.
yeah.
Because that's how I started my love of fiction through
Mhm.
books. The problem now is that because I have a full-time job, ironically, even though I'm a lit teacher, I don't read as much. It just takes a
Yeah,
it just takes a lot of time to get like, if I watch a movie, I can sit down and 1.5 hours, 2 hours, I'm done. I'm finished the movie. But for a book, I can't just sit there and like read and I'll be done. There's just no way. Like you dip in and out of a book depending on your mood, the time of day, how well you can kind of immerse yourself into the world. It takes time,
yeah,
and you can't like, I'm sure some people can do it, but I can't like speed through a book unless I'm feeling it. Like it's difficult, I find. So my aim is that I want to beef up the book section because I write about books when I can,
yeah,
whereas I'm more consistent with film and TV. But yeah, it's just an exploration of all things fiction, and I'm not constrained by genre, even though I love my romance. I write about everything. Um, yeah, and I don't know, because now it's like my site and I'm the editor in chief. I feel that I have become a little bit more bolder
hmm
in the things that I say, because previously I think I had to pass it through someone who would look at it and edit it, and sometimes like certain things I can't write about, but now I can. So
yeah,
like I think what I'm really proud about, I think, are my opinion pieces on the site. Um yeah, which kind of get a lot of traction, so it's not so bad. So I like that I get to like write about anything I want, I guess.
yeah.
Within reason, of course, within reason and within
Right.
not everything. But yeah, so um yeah, but I think the downside is that I feel that now if I watch a bad film, I'm less likely to write about it
Yeah.
because I don't feel
The
because when it's
drive.
your own
Yeah.
site, yeah, when it's your own site, you want to write about things you like. So like I just feel like I've become like, if you look at my Rotten Tomatoes, it's all like positive because I'm only writing about the films that I like. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's yeah, so that's I guess the bad thing about it. I have to force myself, I think, to write like the bad reviews a little more.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Well, you talk and just set my synapses firing in my brain. So, like, that's one thing that I look at with critics. Is like, man, you have to, first of all, you have to watch everything. And so, how do you, if you watch like 2, 3 movies in a day, say, or 4 movies over the course of a couple days, how do you process
Mm,
the ones and really absorb the ones that you really like if you're moving on to the next one? And that's something that
yeah.
Rachel talks about a lot too. Is like, how do I write about something that I'm not passionate about? Like, how can I formulate paragraphs on something that I have no passion for, right? So, running your own site, that is a very positive thing because you can focus on that stuff. And then you talking about books, which are a lost art, like rom coms. Ironically enough, there's I
Yeah.
would ask like, would you like listen to audiobooks? But there's just something that's fine, so you can basically get absorb books and things like that. But there's a difference between sitting with a book and reading the words on a page, and the smell that comes up or the sound that the paper makes when you turn pages that you can't really get
Yeah.
from listening to audiobooks. And so
Yeah.
the one thing that I really like about the fiction department, like talking about books and things like that, is you're branching out and you're making, it's not just about this, it's not just about that. And yeah, it's hard to sit down with a good book. It's hard to sit down and watch a movie these days. Like I have a hard time setting aside like 2.5 hours to watch something. So just to be able to focus on a book, that's like a near impossible task. But you trying to do that and bring that back to people that don't read books, that just listen to audiobooks, or what, there was a discourse of the last little bit that to be a writer you don't have to read books, which is kind of an insane like
Oh,
attitude to have.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
you're writing, talking about being bold. Like obviously you have your Project Hail Mary review up now. You've got your Bridgerton. This what, season 4, is that where we're at with Bridgerton? And then
Yeah.
we were talking a little bit. The one review that I went crazy for was your Wuthering Heights review, like the Emerald Fennel movie. And what was great about that is that there's such a discourse over that movie, because I'm not sure people just are so attached to the Bronte book, or if
Yeah.
it's people are just averse to sex or sexuality in movies these
Yeah.
days. But the fact that you owned that, and again, you have a language in your writing that is hard to come by, and so I really appreciate that. But I love that you latched onto I read this book when I was 14, and it really gets the passion. Like it appealed to you, and it basically got under your skin, it felt like. But you were so bold in the way that you wrote that I think that all the naysayers, like it felt like you'd be able to just nitpick their arguments down because you felt so strongly about the movie. What was the
Yeah.
experience like before we, again, I could talk to you about this stuff all day, but before we move on to my best friend's wedding, what was that?
Yeah.
What was your main takeaway of writing that review? Is that something you're really proud of? And then what kind of feedback do you think you've gotten on that?
Um, Strangely enough, the feedback was really quite effusive. I didn't get like okay, maybe I'm not like popular on Twitter. So maybe like
None of
no
us are.
all
Yeah.
the I think you're slightly more popular than me, but anyway, but yeah, people were really nice about it. Like I got like a lot of like effusive praise on it, and a lot of people were like, "Yeah, I absolutely agree." Or even if they didn't agree, they agreed that the review was like well written, and then they kind of like reposted it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. It's one of the reviews I think when sometimes when I read it, I'm like, "Oh, that came out of me. That's nice."
Yeah.
Like um, yeah, because I think when I watch a film, I after I'm done, I kind of know if I like it or if I didn't like it. But I think I try my best to kind of articulate the whys of it. And I think give movies, even if I didn't like it or I didn't think it's very good, I think try to credit what it tries to do or what it
Yeah.
attempted to do or what it does kind of well, right? Even if it didn't succeed. So I feel that a lot of critics in the space become too, I think, caught up in the idea of hating on things
Yeah.
just because it's fashionable to hate on things. I'm not saying that, Wuthering Heights is like the best movie ever, or wow, it's gonna be you make my movie of the year list. I don't know how I'll feel by the end of the year, but I think that people are just so fixated on particular things or what they expect of particular directors or what they expect of adaptations, and then I think they just kind of refuse to see things on the merit that it offers, or I think of look at it in a more nuanced kind of way, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, the characters don't do A, B, C, right? It's an adaptation, they're not gonna like be exact, but I think, can you credit it in what it does well? I think that's always what I think about. Um, and I think considering how polarizing the film is, I think some people were able, I think, to kind of see through that. I think,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think it depends on what you think makes a good adaptation, like your perspective on that,
Right.
and then how much are you gonna like review it based on that. So I think a lot of people just wanted very faithful text. They were very angry about the ignoring about the racial aspects of Heathcliff's character,
Mhm.
right? They wanted it to be freakier. They're like, oh, he desecrated a grave. That should have happened in the film.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, you shouldn't judge a film about what it didn't do. I think you just got to look at what it does.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So yeah, and I think it's very difficult to make a film like Wuthering Heights, and I think present Heathcliff as this racial other, because it can also become very problematic in the characterization. Like, Heathcliff is just not a nice man,
Mhm.
so then if you have this man, this racial other, like brutalizing characters on screen, like how's that gonna look? It's like, I think should be criticized either way. Like, I don't know, like I think it's just very difficult to make a very racially accurate like Wuthering Heights, but I also feel that it's very ambiguous in the book.
Yeah.
Like, he plays a gypsy, of unknown origin. Like, we don't really know, he's just like he's just this ambiguous figure, right?
Mhm.
But I think the importance is his othering in all ways, not just racially, but like class and
Yeah.
yeah. So I thought, to me, that was the most more essential othering, like the class thing. Like, I
Right.
think that's the essential aspect of like Wuthering Heights, and why Kathy could it's impossible for her to marry him, because he's just so beneath her. That's the whole point of it. So I think like a lot of discourse is valid. I think a lot of it you're just kind of like being too pedantic, I think, and getting into it. If you want Bronte's Wuthering Heights, just read Bronte's Wuthering Heights.
Right.
As an adaptation, you gotta view it on that count. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's what I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I can't. I think I just can't go into a film and decide I'm gonna just hate it.
Mhm.
Regardless of what the film does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, time is precious. So if I'm going to sit down for 2 hours, I can't hate it. You know what I mean? I've got to find something positive about it. Otherwise, it's a waste of my time. And yeah, that book,
Yeah.
there's so much to unpack that I don't think people even realize. I think they just focus on maybe one thing. And when it doesn't cover that one thing in the adaptation, they kind of freak out over it. I love how you
Yeah.
brought up, and you didn't shy away from the master and dog perspective of it and the shifting like sexual power games. And I think that's
Yeah.
important to cover that stuff. And again, I'm not sure if it's just because people are like, oh, I don't want to deal with that stuff. Sex on and is unnecessary and you shouldn't be doing. So again, it's just weird that the controversy about that movie disappeared. But you hit on something very interesting about people just deciding to hate things, and that's just the
Yeah.
culture now. But so again, very very good writing, very good art. I love that you dive into those things, and that's why I just think you're a great writer, because most people don't really take those aspects and really dive into them. But speaking of polarizing, this talking about my best friend's wedding, rom-coms are difficult these days. There's a giant discourse that they're, because Natasha, when I was going to see movies in the 90s, there was always a romantic comedy in theaters, always. Like there are always dramas and comedies and action movies. There's always such a choice and a wide range of genres. And now it's just like you go to a multiplex that plays 16 screens, and 12 of those screens are playing superhero movies, and one of them's playing like a repertory like viewing of something. And it's just all the movies that I love to cut my teeth on are really not available anymore unless they're on streaming. And it's interesting that all these rom-coms seem to be going towards streaming or being labeled as Hallmark movies. I'm not sure if people just think they're not ambitious enough. But with My Best Friend's Wedding, I do specifically remember seeing it in a theater, and I do specifically remember that it was kind of counter programming because Batman and Robin opened the same day. And so if you have
Oh,
Julia Roberts in a rom-com, doesn't matter what it is. That's not what you're going to the you're not going to see My Best Friend's Wedding because it's an IP. You're going to see it because Julia Roberts' face is on the poster. You're going to see it for her. As opposed to Batman, which is you're going to see that because it's an IP. That's the movie that people are probably going to gravitate towards in a theater. But surprisingly, Batman and Robin was awful. And My Best Friend's Wedding did so many things, like played with the tropes of romantic comedies, that I walked out of the movie thinking that was an original. And that's getting harder and harder to do with rom-coms. I mean, what is your I want to ask you what your experience was with My Best Friend's Wedding, but as far as rom-coms go, why do you think where do you think we are as far as rom-coms go, and how do you feel about how they're again relegated to streaming?
um, I think. I think it's relegated to streaming because I think the reality of movies now is that the mid-budget film has no longer really can depend, I think, on drawing in an audience
Hmm.
because now they just end up on streaming platforms. And rom-coms unfortunately fall into that space of the mid-budget movie, right? So a rom-com is not going to be a big blockbuster. It's not going to be that, I mean, there's some rom-coms that are indie darlings or whatever, but if you're looking at more of the mainstream ones, it falls right in that space, right? And the issue now is that a lot of people are saving their movie trips for like the big films, right?
Yeah.
Like, Project Hail Mary, right? Oh, I'll go and watch that in IMAX, right? Everyone's talking about it. I'm gonna watch it, right?
Yeah.
And Dune's coming out. That's what people are gonna head to the theaters to watch. So people are really, I think, weighing the films that they feel are like worthy to go and watch in a movie theater. And I think the communal aspect of films have just been lost. I think that's the reason why rom-coms have come here to streaming. Because previously I could go out with my girlfriends and we would go and like watch a rom-com on a Friday night, and just a bunch of us. Um but for some reason people don't do that anymore. Like if they're gonna go out, I don't think that's their first choice. Um yeah. So, I don't know. It could be because of COVID, people's lives have just gotten more distant, more detached, and they're choosing to spend it in a very different way. Um, yeah, but I think the fact remains is that studios don't want to take a risk anymore with releasing rom-com in theaters. Even like Bridget Jones, the latest one, like it
Right.
didn't release in I think the US theaters, but it released here. So that's interesting
Yeah.
dynamic to it. Yeah. So which is weird because I think if they released it in the US, I think it would have pulled numbers. It did quite well. Like it made quite a decent chunk of money. But Bridget Jones is also like it's also like the fourth film in like a very successful franchise.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but if I'm trying to do like a new rom-com, can I really guarantee that I'll get the audience that I need, especially with like, stars that are more niche? Yeah, like take for example the new film, the new rom-com that's coming out, Me, You, and Tuscany, right?
Yeah.
With Regé Jean and Haley Bailey, right? I mean, how many people, know them, I think, on a mainstream level? Like we know them
Right.
because, we know them from like certain like like The Little Mermaid or Bridgerton, right? That's how we know them. But like how many other people are gonna know them and
Right.
would like go to a cinema to watch them, So I think the era of like going to watch a rom-com because you know the people in it have like kind of like passed. Yeah, we haven't like I think accrued enough, I think, movie stars to kind of make it bankable to watch rom-coms. Yeah. So I think it's that two reasons. I think the 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 loss of the mid-budget movie and um the fact that people are not going to take the risk to go and watch something that they don't know the people acting in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, IP is destined to bring in money just because it's recognizable, right? And I think, again, hitting on something interesting, like movie stars are basically non-existent now. Like people aren't going to see movies for the people in it, which is weird. Thinking that a Julia Roberts movie or a George Clooney movie or a Tom Cruise does, but mostly because it's Mission Impossible. Other than that, because that's an IP, right? But I also think rom-coms are weird because there's a different attitude that people have about rom-coms today, where there's something about like when you're dating, like what's acceptable, like romance and things like that, what's for asking somebody out, or it's really weird. There's a weird like identity crisis, I think, where it's just hard for people to process rom-coms because of like acceptance or the Me Too movement, things like that. I'm not sure what's going on. And what's
Mm.
really interesting about My Best Friend's Wedding is a lot of the pushback today is because the Jules character, Julianne Potter, she's not a likable character. She does things. She's likable because it's Julia Roberts, you know what I mean? So we're waiting for her to become a good person, but she does
Yeah.
things that are iffy, I guess, and she's damaging people's lives. And to me, and that's a pushback for a lot of people. Like if somebody's not likable or they're doing something that's not acceptable, I think people kind
Hmm.
of reject it. And so that's maybe a difficulty with this movie. I, for one, I like flawed characters. I think it makes them more interesting. I think it's really interesting taking America's sweetheart and turning her into a rom-com villain. You know what I mean? And it's something different because with rom-coms, I just wrote something about how it's kind of a saturation point where rom-coms are maybe the most predictable of any film genre because you know exactly the beats that they're going to hit. So what you're watching rom-coms for is basically to see how they subvert or lean into the tropes, and that's what you enjoy about it, right? You see how they play with the tropes, or they're doing this because it's a play on this, things like that. You also, I think, chemistry is very, very important in these rom-coms because if
Yeah.
you don't have good chemistry, that's gonna. But again, it's just weird to me. Like watching this movie last night, I was like, yeah, I saw this in the theater and it was great. But nowadays, this would go straight to streaming unless Julie Roberts really pushed for it. And a movie like Ticket to Paradise, or with George Clooney and Julie Roberts, or What Happens Later with Meg Ryan and David Duchovny. Even though I don't love those two movies, it was so great sitting in a theater and watching a rom com, and just feeling like, oh, this is back in the 90s. um but I guess I wanted to ask you any thoughts on that, and then what was your experience with My Best Friend's Wedding?
Strangely enough, I didn't watch it in the theater. I watched Batman and Robin, I think.
See.
Not because not because I didn't want to, but because I think when this film came out, I think I was really young. Like it came out in,
97,
was
yeah.
it 1997, right? Yeah, so I was like 8 years old or something like that.
Right.
So I didn't have a choice, and my parents had the money. So I just like, okay, yeah, you want to watch this? I'll go and watch it. Yeah. So yeah, I think we went and watched Batman because it's Batman, and that's, I guess, what you take your kids to go and watch at that age.
Mhm.
Even though I guess it's violent, but yeah, my parents brought us to watch that. Um, so I only watched, I think, My Best Friend's Wedding when I got it on like DVD
Mhm.
or CD form. Yeah, and I still have the CD from that time. So that's when that's how we used to watch like different stuff. Things that we couldn't really watch in the theater. Like we
Mhm.
would, after the films, been released for some time, then you get the CD. So that's how I watched it actually. Um yeah, and I think I was just a very romantic girl. Like I was just like, oh, I want to fall in love someday, I
Mhm.
want that, and I really like that, they open the film and it's just these people like singing about, about love and and it's just it's so camp. Yeah, and then you watch it and then you're like, oh, it really is her best friend's wedding. It's not her wedding. And then you're like, oh, that's sad.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but yeah, I think that was my interaction with it. I watched it on a CD, and I think we bought the CD because it was Julia Roberts on the cover, and that's what we watched it. Um I think I like films that help, like, give me, like, I think different insights as I age in life. Like, I think when I first watched it, I was like, you know, I felt so bad for her. I was like, oh, sad, and now when I watch it again, it's like, oh, she's a problematic woman.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I feel like he's problematic as well. Michael's like a bit of a red flag, but
Yeah, he's
but
not
I
perfect.
think
Yeah.
I just yeah, I just really like that. Yeah, I thought that I think it really captures, I think, the complexity, I think, of relationships. And I think it's one of, like, the rom-coms that really, I think, gets it right. Like,
Yeah.
sometimes rom-coms can be a tad, fantasy fulfillment, a tad unrealistic. This is one of the few rom-coms that I feel is very true to real life.
Mhm.
And I think it teaches you essential lessons about love, which people, I think, don't really realize because they're so focused on the imperfections of the characters.
Mhm.
But I feel that people are messy. People are messy in romantic lives.
Yeah.
I'm sure that. Okay, I don't know about you. I don't know about your romantic life, whether you were messy, but I'm sure we all have like a messy phase, in romance. It is messy, yeah, but it can also be really beautiful. So I think that's why I really like this film, and I don't think I will ever hate it. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, watching it last night, I think it stands the test of time great because of the edge
Yeah.
that it has. Because it's
Yeah.
it's spiky. I guess I would. It's yeah. When I remember seeing it in the theater, and when they do the "Wishing and Hoping," like Andy DeFranco's cover of the Dusty Springfield song, I remember sitting in the theater
Yeah.
going, "What the hell is this?" Like it was so like campy, and I don't like they're dancing, and it's obvious that
Yeah.
the actress is I think what's her name? It's Racy Alexander is the main girl, the bride. It's obvious that she's lip syncing. There are parts where she's,
Yeah.
and so the whole time I was like, "What is this?" So I think the movie. It took me a while to settle in, and every time I watch it, it takes me a while to settle into the group. I like what you said about how it's like an idealized like romance kind of thing, and that really hits on that. But yeah, it does take me a little bit to really settle in the groove. And she gets that call from Michael like within the first 5 minutes, so that's where the plot.
Yeah.
There's no real time to really get used to a lot of stuff. It just goes right in. But I think that the longer the movie goes on, the more it involves you and it envelops you. And you're right, it's messy. I think when people watch rom-coms, they want this, maybe they want this idealized version of what love is. They want to live in the moment, live
Mhm.
vicariously through, which again is fine. But I think if you're going to make every character angelic and no flaws at all, I think it's really kind of dull. I like a movie these days that has a little bit of an edge, and she gets punished for it. She gets punished for her actions, right? Which is
Yeah.
that's something that I think people don't really talk about. It's the imperfections that you're right that sell that. And what I love is that it's kind of an inverse of When Harry Met Sally, because that movie's like a great rom com because it gives you the idea that you need romance is about getting to know the person that you're with, letting all their foibles, all their problems, all their insights. And so the way that the Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan characters talk constantly, but every time they talk, they're finding out new things about each other. So when they realize they're in love with each other, they're good. They know each other inside and out. And that's the way that
Yeah.
Michael and Jules are. And I love the way that Kimmy's character, and by the way, it's really funny that Cameron Diaz was just starting out. I think The Mask was 3 years before this. She really hadn't hit her stride yet. It's funny watching her in this, not understanding at the time that she had become such a powerhouse for movies
Yeah.
and taking, basically taking no crap from anybody, right? But it's fun watching her play like the obviously the weaker character. And I like how the more that Jules tries to sabotage their relationship, the closer they become and realize that it's how
Yeah.
they feel for each other. But again, they're not as open with each other as Jules and Michael are, but they become more open, and all their arguments come to the fore. You know what I mean? And they know each other inside and out. And I love the way again that Jules inadvertently brings that out of them. I think that's a very good.
Yeah.
and fun way to do a rom-com. Like I said, if it's too predictable, it's fine. As long as you have the chemistry between the two leads, it's enjoyable. But I love the way that it just subverts all those ideas and the story beats. And that's why I think it stands up. I mean, any thoughts on that? And
I
why do you
think,
think Michael's a red
yeah.
flag? I want to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, I mean, firstly, like he entered, I think when Jules was changing, he entered the dressing room and she was like in her underwear.
Uh-huh.
And then he was like, "You look great, by the way." It's like, dude, like
Yeah.
this guy. Like and then she was like covering up, and then he was like, "I've seen you with way less clothes and things like that." I was just like, dude, like there's a line, and you have a whole fiance
Yeah.
on the other side. I don't think I would be happy if my husband was doing all this weird shit. When we were about to get married and he was talking to like his girl best friend like this, I think I would like lose my shit. But anyway, yeah, so I think that his friendship with Jules, I think, is not really platonic. I think that's the key thing I think we notice in the film. Um and I think for a reason. I mean, I think that is what the film does really well. It distinguishes, I think, between love and compatibility. I think two people can love each other very much, but still not be compatible.
Yeah.
I think Jules knew this. Like she realized it when she dated him all those years ago, and they had, their hot thing and everything. Um, there is this inherent incompatibility with them in terms of their lifestyles, the jobs that they have. Um, so I think even if let's say for some reason she ended up with him at the end of the film, I think they would not be happy together. Like they were just not like suitable, I think compatible. They love each other, but I think sometimes love is not enough, I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought whereas for Kimmy, I think that him and Kimmy love each other and then they're compatible,
Yeah.
right? He needed, I think, someone who would always like put him first. And Kimmy was willing to do that. Yeah. But I felt that Jules loved him, but I think she valued herself more, which is fine. Like I think they're just very different people. So
Yeah.
I think that's what the film does like really well. I think people don't talk about it enough. I think we always like to look at love in this very idealistic lens, and it is lovely, right? In its form, it's lovely to love someone, I think. But like at the same time, I think when you're talking about like a partner in life or someone you want to spend, your future with, whatever, I think compatibility is very important. And
Yeah.
I think it's one of the few rom-coms that actually like, you know, goes into it. So I'm sure that at some point Michael felt torn, right? I mean, he will always love Jules, but I think the key thing this movie does is that it establishes that love is a choice.
Yeah.
And I think that's very important. It's not just something that you feel, it's something you act on. And I think Michael choosing Kimmy at all times shows you that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So even though he's messy, but that's the yeah. I
Right.
think that's what the film is really good at. Yeah.
Right. Well,
What do you
again,
think?
classical
Yeah.
storytelling trope is the protagonist trying to correct a problem, and everything that he or she does makes it worse for themselves, right? And that's
Mhm.
what pulls you in. It's a conflict, and that's going on all the time. I love the idea that she doesn't really think of Michael in that way at all, and she tells George that, like, oh, we've just been platonic best friends ever since. And it's only when Michael says, oh, I'm getting married, that triggers something in her where she's feels like, I don't know, she's going to lose him or something like that, and this is the way to get him back, or it's just something that she always maybe thought that she had this hold over him and it's not there anymore, so she's desperately trying to get that. I love that George is her. And Rupert Everett, what a great star making performance. I miss the days when he was a thing, right? But the way that he's her
Yeah.
conscience, and he tells her, like, why are you didn't love him? Like, why are you doing this? And he tells her flat out, just tell him obviously that you love him, but give him a kiss, tell him like, I wish you all the luck, and then come back home. That's what you're out there for, that's what you're doing for. So I love that. I also love that when George comes into the story, that causes Michael to get jealous, because you're right, I love that you brought that up. It's not truly platonic, because they do have an attraction for each other. It's there and it
Yeah.
always has been. They just don't, they didn't. That's the thing that I thought was interesting, especially if you look at their scene on the ferry, which is a lovely scene
Mm.
about how, you have your best friends and you can talk about everything, but do you ever hone down and talk about your real feelings for each other? You know what I mean? And so when they do that, I think that's very an open, refreshing kind of thing, and it lets you know who they are. But at the end of the day, I still love that and no matter what she does, it always comes back to Kimmy. I love that again.
Mm.
She brings out Kimmy's independence. My favorite thing about this whole movie is that she is not a pushover. I love that she
Yeah.
turns out to be so strong and she discovers herself. And no, I want to do my own thing. I don't want to just be the trophy wife. And we're going to be equals in this partnership, right? I love that scene in the bathroom again when they're fighting. And it's a great catty moment, right? I mean, Ronald Bass wrote the screenplay. I think he wrote like Sleeping with the Enemy for Julie Roberts. Maybe that's why he wrote this, but he won the Oscar for Rain Man, all that. But that catty moment where they're in the bathroom and like all the other women gather around, I think it's a bit of magical realism where that wouldn't really happen in real life, but it's just the rom-com movie that's kind of funny, right? But I love that they have that confrontation, and it basically comes down to, I lost. Like, it's about Jules coming in there and saying, I was wrong and I'm trying to make amends for it. I'm a horrible person. And she has that conversation with Michael too, where you can tell they're best friends, where he's like, you're the pus, that feeds on but thank
Yeah.
you for loving me that much that you'd want to stoop to this
Yeah.
level, right? I love that they have this unspoken agreement that, okay, I was wrong, let's get you back with Kimmy. I love all of that. So that's what I'm talking about with rom-coms. It plays with those tropes so well and so interestingly that's what makes the movie last for me. And it's also watching, like I said last night, with the stuff that you're talking about how it's not, love just can't be enough. It's not just that you have two attractive people that's going to
Yeah.
make a relationship laugh. I don't know if you've caught it, but I love and I just caught it last night when they both show up at the airport and they're looking for each other. When Michael shows up first, his lip turns up on the right side of his face. And when you cut back to Jules, her lip turns up on the left side of her face. So I'm like, oh, they're a perfect match for each other, right? I thought that was really interesting, like visual. And I think that's just their natural, their natural smile. But I just thought it was a nice way to say, oh, they complement each other very nicely. But you're right. At the end of the day, there's a connection that they don't have that he and Kimmy have.
Yeah.
But did you have any thoughts on that? And then I wanted to ask you, what do you think of the Julie Roberts Dermot Mulroney chemistry?
Uh, okay, so Julia Roberts, I think, has chemistry with everyone. I
Yes, yes,
think
she does.
she's just really good. Um, I did think that they had a very on the surface kind of friendly chemistry, and then there's always this like simmering
Mm.
undertone of romantic tension. I felt it in every single one of their interactions together, this like unspoken lingering tension that neither one of them wanted to like confront. So I thought that they actually had, like, I think good chemistry and that good romantic tension. I think you need that because you kind of need to understand why she's doing all this bad shit, crazy things. You gotta understand, like, you gotta feel in a way that connection between them. Otherwise, she's just completely crazy. And that wouldn't do, I think, for a protagonist in a film like this, right? You can't like just be thinking this woman is nuts. So you gotta like understand where she's coming from. And I think it's not overt, but I think it's really well done. Like, I think they keep it platonic, because I guess they want Michael's hands to be kind of clean at the end, but it's also like ambiguous, with all these little moments, like the scene on the ferry, which is like probably the most romantic aspect of the film, but then they
Uh,
don't end up together, which is interesting because if you think back to like all his moments with Kimmy, like which one like has that same amount of like romance and chemistry? Like, you don't see the like when he tells us about a lot of his relationship with Kimmy is told through his story. Like, he will tell Jules about her, and about the moments, and we don't actually get to like see it, which is very interesting.
Mm.
Yeah, because then they end up together, right? Yeah, so I think very much so the focus is a lot on like the idea of choice.
Yeah.
Like it kind of, pushes aside all that idea of like chemistry and everything, and it really focuses on that idea, like that whole element, of the three of them running, right? Him running after Kimmy, she running after him. I
Yeah.
think that encapsulates the film like really well. And also I guess it makes sense that we wouldn't see a lot of like romantic moments because the story is told from Joel's perspective.
Yeah.
So of course we're gonna see more of her perspective. Yeah. So yeah, I felt that it's needed because you don't want her to be completely like, off her rocker.
Right.
But yeah, I think it was still like a love story between them. It's just they just don't marry each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you
Yeah.
have these relationships where they pass. You could have ended up with a certain person, right? I don't think there's just one soulmate for everybody. I think there are multiple soulmates and kindred spirits. It's just finding that connection with one of them. So I love
Yeah.
that idea that there's a melancholy of we could have been something, but what we have now is more important. Like I've got my best friend growing up, her name was Jenny. Like we had that platonic relationship where we could tell each other anything, but there was always like an attraction there, but it was just something that we never wanted to give
Mm,
into because the relationship that we had, the friendship we had was too strong. And we're still really good friends to this day. We just recorded Last Mohicans with her like for 1992. So we're still in contact and all that. So
yeah.
there is that melancholy if we could have been something, but then we could have missed out on these other things. I really like that it touches on that. I like the idea that it's very sad. It's bittersweet, that whole ending where she feels like she's losing Michael, but not really. I mean, they're still going to be friends and they're still going to talk, but he's got somebody else in his life now. And I think it's funny that she has George the whole time, who's basically a replacement for Michael when Michael's off somewhere else. But George is now her conscience and George is now her best friend. I know that they reshot that ending. I don't know if you knew that, but it was supposed to end with Jules at the wedding. And then a character played by John Corbett, she met him and there was like an idea that, oh, they're going to fall in love now and everything's a happy ending.
Ah,
And audiences,
yeah.
when they previewed that, they rejected that because Jules is not I don't think she deserves the happy ending quite yet. The movie is about her realizing what she's capable of and her flaws and all that. So they went back and they reshot it and they brought George back in because he's a favorite character. And I think that's a perfect way to end it. Like I said, the movie doesn't end. You would expect the tropes to end with her ending up with Michael, but that's not how it is. I love that it fortifies over the course of the movie his relationship with Kimmy, and Jules realizes she has to let him go, but she's got George. Life will go on. He cheers her up, right, and he's there for her, so she's got somebody, a support system, and I love that. And I think
Yeah.
PJ Hogan told Entertainment Weekly that an executive said, you added a $40 million box office because you changed the ending and brought George back in.
Yeah.
So again, I love all that. I love the way that and that's again why I think it stands up. But I wanted to talk about, just really quickly talk about Rupert Everett because I think he's such a scene stealer in this. And I love the
Yeah.
idea that I love when he says, like, who's chasing you? Like, he's chasing her, you're chasing him. Who's chasing you? Nobody's chasing you. I like he has this harsh reality
Yeah.
stuff. But that whole sequence, watching it again last night, is classic where he shows up to help her and she just keeps digging deeper where she tells Michael that he's her fiance, right? And that causes him to dive into this parody of what a straight man, of what a heterosexual man's man is, right? And
Yeah.
he's groping her in the taxi, he's just playing into it. And again, I think as far as actors go, they planned that out before. It's not like he just did that when they're in the taxi. And like you said, Julia Roberts has good chemistry with everybody, so that's probably something they worked out together. But I love that it keeps building, and he keeps giving her just desserts and making her pay for all the choices that she's making. But it
Yeah.
climaxes that whole thing with them singing I say a little prayer in that restaurant, right? And it's just
Yeah.
that whole thing with him in it is such a scene stealing. But as a movie and as a section itself, I love that idea that he comes in to save her, realizes that she's still doing bad stuff, so he punishes her for it and like leans in, and then
Yeah.
he wins over everybody to embarrass her and basically, embarrass Michael. And I just thought that whole sequence was great. What did you think of Rupert Everett in this movie and as a sidekick and the ending?
Yeah, I think this is where sometimes I think modern rom-coms fail because I think they forget, I think, the role of a minor character. Like a minor character is really there to, I think, pivot the character arc in some way, right? And I think he's the perfect example of like being quite very fairly defined, has a character on his own.
Uh-huh.
We know who George is, right? He's established from the beginning through all the
Right.
little phone calls. We know exactly who he is. And then he comes in, he plays his part in the arc, and then he leaves, and then he comes back again. So I think without him, it wouldn't be the classic that it is. Like the
Yeah.
performance is like pitch perfect. And I think maybe because of him, now rom-coms have like the mandatory gay best friend kind of thing going on. Like probably because he was so popular and he did so well in it. Um, and I think a lot of the time when I was watching it, I just kept thinking, oh, if only he wasn't gay. I thought they would make such a great match. Like I thought
Yeah.
that they were so like,
Well, there's the connection they don't have,
yeah.
right? Because he's the opposite
Yeah,
attracted to
yeah. So yeah, and I thought it was like, so refreshing because like they are very physically affectionate with each other. Like he is very physical kind of person. But they able to kind of make it very clear that, I mean he's of course he's gay, but like it's so refreshing, I think, to see platonic relationships portrayed like this.
Yeah.
I think usually when it's platonic, like there is this sense like, oh, they can't touch each other or whatever, but I don't know, there's this like comfortable ease between the two characters, and it makes the friendship so believable.
Yeah.
Like that's true friendship. Like a friend is not someone who's just gonna tell you what you want to hear,
Right.
who's gonna tell you like, hey, you are like doing it wrong, you gotta like stop. And every rom-com I think needs a song, like a song or dance moment, and yeah, that moment is like classic and it's so good. Like you can't say it's a rom-com without something like that.
Yeah.
So uh yeah, and that last scene between the two of them is great. I think it's like one of like the top tier endings. Like it makes her ending less bittersweet, I
Mhm.
feel. Like, like I guess if you wanted her to have a jazz dessert, like she'd just be sitting there solitary at the end of the film, and you're like, oh, she deserves it, but I felt like having a friend come there and be there for her and cheer her up, and this sense that she'll be okay. She'll pick herself up, she'll rebuild,
Yeah.
she'll move on. So it gives us this sense like, that she'll be all right. And I think as much as she's flawed, I do think we root for her a little bit.
Right.
um yeah, because we sometimes we understand, I think, the feelings, right? I think of loving someone so intensely, so passionately, that I think it makes you do all these stupid things. So yeah, I think he's great. I haven't seen him like recently. I don't know
Yeah.
what he's done recently. I think the last thing was the importance of being earnest. I think that's the last thing I remember from
Right.
him. So I don't know. He kind of disappeared. I don't know what happened.
I
Yeah.
think maybe they just couldn't figure out what to do with him. I think he's a very charming actor, and maybe because he's well known a gay actor, they couldn't cast him in heterosexual parts because there'd be like a remove. I'm not sure. Like I said, I just love that he was a thing back then, and he's so
Yeah.
funny and he's so great. And
Yeah.
it's what's awesome about the token best friend, the gay best friend, is I think people just didn't. A lot of romantic comedies would have that character, but they wouldn't know what to do with that character other than
Yeah.
to have him
Yeah.
there and be funny and gay. You know what I mean? I love
Yeah.
that. Like I said,
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
said it before. George is there and he's constantly telling Jules, "Stop what you're doing. You're crazy." And that's the thing too. I don't think people appreciate that Jules knows what she's doing is wrong. It's not like she's leaning in,
Yeah.
and every choice that she makes, even writing that email that gets Michael fired, like she knows she's done something terrible, right? So
Yeah.
the fact that she grapples with that. But again, George, it has that part where she's driving the bread truck, right, which is great farce, I guess, and she calls George and she's yelling. He's in that book signing or the reading or whatever, and he basically steals away and he's telling her, "No one's chasing you," right? And he the crowd is reacting to him talking, and there's that one shot of him turning around and realizing everybody's staring at him. Again, he's got
Yeah.
his own agency, and he comes in and saves her at the end. Not saves her from what she's doing, but basically lets her know that she's human and he's always got her back. And I think that's what the token gay character, they just have them around to be funny and not actually be a character and have agency. I think that's the difference here. And I really don't
Yeah.
like when people see something that's great, but they don't understand what makes it great. It's not just that Everett's such a charmer, it's the way that he's written. So yeah,
Yeah.
I just think all that. And like I said, the ending is so sad but happy at the same time. I love that Jules, like her speech that she gives, like I dreamed that somebody crazy was trying to break you up, and I realize that you're perfect for each other. And it's such a lovely moment where she says, I know that you two don't have a song, so I'm going to lend you ours, the way you look tonight,
Yeah.
right? And Michael looks at her like, yes, the same way that she looks at George later, where you're my best friend, you've got my back, right? And I appreciate
Yeah.
all this. And there's that moment where, yeah, they have the fun and they're running out, and she realizes that she missed him, which is heartbreaking. But he
Yeah.
comes back just for her, and it's a quick. I love that it's such a quick moment. They hug, and she tries to squeeze him, but then he pulls away, and it's like, bye. I've got my honeymoon to go on, right? And we don't have time. I love that it gives her that closure. But again, I don't think if it just ended with her sitting there at the table, melancholy, and then the credits rolled, I mean, you still want to walk out happy. I just think that ending is so perfect with the way George comes back in and he's watching her
Yeah.
and they dance, and it goes on for a while. Like he makes her laugh for at least 2 minutes. It's not just one laugh in the
Yeah.
credits. It goes on for so long that we enjoy their company.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I love that. Did you have any thoughts on the actual, like any more thoughts on the ending or any of the lovelier moments in the movie?
I like that you mentioned that hug between Jules and Michael. I don't know if you realize it's actually a callback to an earlier part of the film when he said that one of the things that he liked about Kimmy is that when he displays his love for her publicly, when he hugs her in public, she hugs him back and she like doesn't want to let him go.
Yeah.
And his qualm with Jules is that when they were in a
Yes.
relationship together, she would always refuse to hug him, like, in public, and
Pull
she
away.
would never hold him back. Yeah. But so it's like such a reversal on that moment, because when he finds her to hug her, like she holds him and she doesn't want to let go, but she has to,
Yeah.
so it's like it adds to, I
Wow.
think, that bittersweet element, that is defines their relationship.
Right.
Sometimes love is just not enough. Yeah. I mean, it's like when you mentioned your best friend as well. Like I had a best friend too, and that, but it was always just platonic, even though there was, the element of possibility. But at the same time, like, even though we love talking to each other, and we shared so much of our lives, together and whatever, there was just a part of us that knew that we would never cross into that territory, right?
Yeah.
And that we also would not suit. So I think it's just yeah, I don't know, it really makes us think about, like the idea of ships passing in
Yeah.
the night. Sometimes, like, you pass someone, and then they become this defining relationship in your life, and they end up becoming something more. But then some ships just, we just pass, and then
Yeah.
that's it. And
That's it.
then you end up just having a very different relationship at the end of it. um yeah, so I don't know if their friendship will survive his marriage to Kimmy.
Uh,
Like, yeah, I think it really depends on, what happens at that point.
yeah.
Yeah, because when it gets messy like that, I don't know, it's hard when you're married. You get what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, you can't split
Yeah.
that time anymore because you got your wife to worry
Yeah.
about. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to ask you like if you had any like topic you want to cover, but I just before we get into that as kind of a closing topic, I do want to mention just a couple of fun things. I love that we see Paul Giamatti show up for a little bit. Like I always forget that he's in it, and when he shows up, I'm like, oh my gosh, Paul Giamatti, and he sells why he
Yeah.
become a big star later. I like the Rachel Griffiths and Carrie Preston characters, like the twins, and how they're
Yeah.
goofy and they're characters, but they never take over to the point where they're annoying.
Yeah.
They exist as people, and I like that that shows you Kimmy's like fun, like college days, like hanging out with the girls, but also as a counterpoint, like we said, Kimmy grows up and realizes she has her own wants and needs, but she still has
Yeah.
that. So again, I like all that. And then again, the we never really talk about the filmmaking with rom-coms, but it's Laszlo Kovacs doing the cinematography here, who did like Five Easy Pieces for Bob Rafelson. He did a bunch of no, Peter Bogdanovich movies and Ghostbusters. So that's a name that I know. But I
Mm.
like that there's this movie shot in widescreen. There's a lot of great colors and comedy bits. I like that there's some split diopters that show up in here. It's interesting to see that in romantic comedy. So again, it's a very sparkling looking movie. I think it's a good looking movie, even though I don't know if the filmmaking like enhances the movie at all. I think it's just good to have a movie that's good to look at. But anyway, all of that, it's just a really good package entertainment. Was there any topic that you wanted to cover before we close out our conversation?
I think what I want to talk about is this your favorite Julia Roberts rom-com? Like of all the rom-coms that she's done, is this the best or the one that you like the best?
Like, I mean, starting with Pretty Woman in 1990, right? That was like one of the major rom-coms. I think this might
Yeah.
be my second favorite, especially of the 90s. I think Notting Hill is my favorite rom-com with Julia Roberts in it, which oddly enough, she plays a flawed character in that one too. And I've seen people push back on Notting Hill because she's kind of shrill and she's got a temper. But then it's like, but yeah, she's been a movie star her whole life in that movie. So she's going to have psychological problems. She's a human, and that's what Hugh
Yeah.
Grant like recognizes in her. And again, chemistry with Hugh, I could watch Hugh Grant, like again, chemistry with a stuffed animal, right? Hugh Grant is so fun to watch, and I like the whole
Yeah.
British, the English American dynamic in there. So yeah, there's a lot more that appeals to me. In like I said, my best friend's wedding takes a while for me to warm up to it, to the point where the ending really gets me and gets me emotional. But Notting Hill, I think, just has me from the very beginning. What's your favorite Julie Roberts rom com?
Yeah, it's Notting Hill. I even have like I think I wanted to wear it today, but I couldn't find it. I have the shirt because my brother went to Notting Hill, so he got me like a tote bag that has the movie, and then I have the shirt as well of the poster.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love Notting Hill. So good. The writing, the acting, just really top tier rom-com. Um, I would say second is probably Pretty Woman. I do like My Best Friend's Wedding a lot.
Mhm.
Um, but I think I like the sappy saccharine stuff a little more.
Yeah, why not?
Like, yeah,
Yeah.
like I like it, the more unrealistic the better. No, I'm just joking. Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe because it's one of the first few rom-coms I watched, Pretty Woman. Yeah, so yeah, but I mean, I think it's pretty on par with My Best Friend's Wedding. Like, I even like the film that she did, America's Sweethearts,
Mhm.
with John Cusack and Catherine Zeta-Jones, Billy Crystal's in that as well. Like, I
Yeah.
rewatched it recently, and not the best film, but I really enjoyed. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I love Julie Roberts' hair. Like,
Yes.
I can see like. Okay,
Especially in
my hair is
here.
like naturally curly. Yeah,
It's prime
yeah,
Julie
she hair
Roberts
is
hair in here. Yeah.
gorgeous. It's gorgeous. Yeah, yeah, I think as a curly haired girl, she was like one of the few people who were rapping like the curly hair so like well.
Uh,
So I really like um just enjoyed like her whole aesthetic in those films.
right.
Yeah, but yeah, probably Notting Hill is definitely number one. It's like great.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, just as an aside, I think this is the first movie. Julia Roberts has always been a mainstay, but this is the first movie, especially that part where they're at the baseball game when she's bringing the beers around and she's charming all the men in
Yeah.
there. And she says, I've got moves you've never seen. I think this is the first movie where I looked at Julia Roberts and thought, damn. So she,
Yeah.
she really plays it. But again, very attractive woman, very talented actress. She plays her megawatt smile like from the very beginning, and it just works like crazy here. So that's what I mean. It's like it's got all the rom-com tropes in here, but it plays with them so well that I think that's why it really stands. Did you have any final thoughts on My Best Friend's Wedding as a movie?
As a movie, yeah, I think it has longevity. I think even if people hate on it, I think it will be one of those rom-coms that people will still be talking about.
Yeah.
Mainly because of all the stars in it. And I think the original, I mean, one of the more original premises, which is that the villain is also the protagonist of the film. So
Mhm.
it's always like fun to watch. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it will have, as long as Julia Roberts is in conversation, I think My Best Friend's Wedding will also be in conversation. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. Well, again, I tell you this all the time. I really appreciate the hell out of you. Like I said, I think you're a talented writer. I think you've got a great voice. I love talking with you. If it's about Julie Roberts or twin Lindsay Lohan's, any of that. And
Yeah.
I really, I try to figure out ways to keep talking to the people that I enjoy talking with. So we've got to have you on a lot sooner than the gap in between this and the Parent Trap. So again,
Yeah.
everybody like Natasha Alvar, you're great. If you could tell us like how we can read your writing or get a hold of you, tell us about like you and how we can find you on the internet.
Okay, so you can read my writing on thefictiondepartment.com. Like I mentioned earlier, we cover things about film, TV, books. I write a lot about romantic dramas, romantic comedies. I think I had a piece about materialists,
Mm.
that came out last year. I also, I think, wrote about sex lies and videotape and things like that. So
Ooh,
there's a lot of
okay.
like interesting romantic discourse, but also discourse about other things. You can find my musings on X, formerly known as Twitter. You can find me at Lit My Soul. Yeah, I tweet about whatever I'm watching, and I just watched Crime 101.
Ooh, okay.
Enjoyed that. Yeah, Hailey Berry is just A class. So that's how you can kind of find me. Yeah, those are the avenues.
Okay. Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Natasha, thank you for being, like I said, our good luck charm, and thanks for being a friend. I appreciate all our conversations. So thank you so much for chatting about this. I'm standing in between Dermot Mulroney and Julia Roberts right here. So thanks for
Yeah.
thanks for talking about this movie about like the divisive and polarizing. And I couldn't think of a better person to chat about this with you. So thank you, and I hope to talk to you again soon. But that'll wrap up another episode from NostalgiaCast. I'm Darin Lumberg, and life goes on. Maybe there won't be marriage. Maybe there won't be sex. But by God, there'll be dancing.
Yeah. Yep. So, should I say mine now?
Yes, absolutely. What's your quote?
Yours fits much better. Mine is weird. Okay. Mine is choose me, marry me, let me make you happy. Yeah. Imagine Julia Roberts saying it in all her red hat glory. Yeah. It's great.
Hard not to. Okay, thanks, Natasha. We'll catch you again next time. Thank you very much.